So, impairment of loan. So, when all or portion of the loan receivable are considered uncollectible, a credit loss may arise. So, credit losses at the present value of all cash shortfalls. So, we consider this as our probable losses. So, expected credit losses are an estimate of credit losses over the life of the loan receivable. So, according to PFRS 9, an entity shall recognize a loss allowance representing the expected credit loss of the financial asset measured at amortized cost. So, there's really a need for us to recognize loss allowance related to the expected credit loss of a financial asset. Now, how do we measure impairment? So, these are the factors to be considered in measuring the expected credit losses. So, first, the probability or the weighted outcome. So, the estimate should reflect the possibility that a credit loss occurs and the possibility that no credit loss occurs. So, for example, if there is a 70% chance that no credit loss occurs, then there is a 30% chance that a credit loss will occur. So, in short, it should tally to 100 na yung percentages or yung probabilities. Of course, dapat magtali siya to 100. So, another thing to consider is the time value of money. So, the expected credit loss should be discounted since it will still take time and it's more than 12 months before pa masettle ang loans receivable. And then lastly, it must be reasonable and supported with information that is available without undue cost or effort. So, these are the factors that we have to consider in measuring the expected credit losses. Okay, so how do we measure the impairment? So, the amount of impairment loss can be measured as a difference between the carrying amount and the present value of the future cash flows discounted at the original effective rate. The impairment loss will be recognized as an expense. So, we have here impairment loss is just a difference between the principal carrying amount, the carrying amount of the loan, that's principal plus accrued interest, minus the present value of the estimated future cash flows of the restructured loan using the old effective rate. So, pag mas malaki itong carrying amount natin as compared to the present value of the estimated future cash flows, then we have impairment. Otherwise, wala tayong impairment. Pagbaliktad. Kung mas maliit ito, or meaning if this is greater than this, then wala tayong impairment loss. An impairment loss account is or has parallel account, which is the allowance for loan impairment. So this allowance account is a contra asset that is shown as a deduction to the loan account. Loan allowance for loan impairment or allowance for loan impairment is computed as follows. So you have that's impairment loss minus your accrued interest. That's your allowance for impairment. Okay, so we'll have this illustration. So, para mas mapadali yung computations for this problem, I transferred here in the Excel file. So, we have Universe Bank loaned 5 million to Bank Card Company in January 1, 2018. The term of the loan requires principal payment of 1 million each year for 5 years, plus interest at 10%. So the first principal and interest payment is due on December 31, 2018. bank card company made the required payments on December 31, 2018 and December 31, 2019. However, during 2020, bank card company began to experience financial difficulties and was unable to make the required principal and interest payment on December 31, 2020. On December 31, 2020, Universe Bank assessed the collectability of the loan and has determined that the remaining principal payments will be collected, but the collection of the interest is unlikely. The receivable has a carrying amount of 3,300,000, including the accrued interest of 300,000 on December 31, 2020. Universe Bank projected the cash flows from the loan on December 31, 2020 as follows. So, you have here, ito yung projected na cash flows na kung paano makukolekta ni Universe Bank ang kanyang loan receivable from bank card. So, you have 1 year after, magbabayad ng 500,000 si bank card. Then by 2022, you'll have 1 million and another 1.5 million by 2023. Now, what is our concern here? So, the first thing that we have to do before we can compute our impairment loss, the first thing that we have to do is to compute first the present value of your loans, based on the cash flows as estimated. So, in this case, kumpitan natin or kunin natin ang present value ng mga cash flows na to using the effective rate, which is effective rate here is 10%. So, paano natin i-compute yung present value ng mga cash flows na to? So, here, nag-compute lang siya ng present value of 1 factors para pang-multiply natin doon sa mga expected cash flows natin. Matatanggap natin 1 year after, 2 years after, and 3 years after. So, these factors here, for example, 0.1991 is computed as 1 plus I. So, in this case, that's 10%. So, that's 0.10 raised to the power of negative 1. So, the factor is that, no? So, 0.1991. So, for that period 1, so dito yan siya. Ito na period, that's period 1. So, ito yung factor niya. So, for period 1, ang matatanggap ay 500,000. So, minultiply siya ng factor na 0.9091. For period 2 naman, using the same formula except that this time, period 2 na tayo. So, for the period 2, so you'll have 0.8264 or yan. So, that is for the period 2. So, that is the factor to be multiplied to 1 million since it will be received 2 years after. And then, lastly, for period 3, so that is for period 3. So, 0.7513. So, 0.7513. So, that's for the 1.5 million since it will be collected 3 years after. So after that, you simply add all of the present value of the projected cash flows. So yung 2,409,900, that is now the present value of your future cash flows. So that amount, i-compare natin sa ating carrying amount ng loans. So yung carrying amount ng loans, that is composed of the principal plus your accrued interest. So in this case, that's 3,330,000. So the present value of the future cash flows is 2,407,900. So therefore, the impairment loss is 892,100. So to compute for the allowance for loan impairment, so we have here impairment loss of 892,100 as we have computed. I-deduct natin yung accrued interest na hindi na makakolekta. So you have 300,000. So your allowance for loan impairment is 592,100. To record our loan impairment loss on December 31, 2020. So we debit loan impairment loss for 892,100. Credit our accrued interest receivable since it's no longer collectible, 300,000, and credit allowance for loan impairment at 592,100. So when we are going to present this in our statement of financial position on December 31, 2020, so this will be our presentation. So yung loans receivable natin, ang principal amount ay 3 million na lang. Then, i-deduct natin yung allowance for loan impairment na 592,100. So that's a total of 2,407,900, which is equivalent, of course, to the carrying amount of your loans receivable as of December 31, 2020. And actually, that's also the amount now of the present value of your future cash flows. So let us proceed to the succeeding na mga computations pertaining to this impairment loss. So what we have here is an amortization schedule for the allowance for loan impairment. So we have here the carrying amount of your loan receivable as of December. So what we have to do is to multiply this 2,407,900 by the effective rate that we used in computing for the present value of the future cash flows. And in this case, that was 10%. So 2,407,900 times 10%, so you'll have 240,790. So, ang mangyayari, itong 240,790, ito yung i-report natin as interest income for 2021. Okay, so since nagbayad ang ating client ng 500,000 noong December 31, 2020, or we're expecting the client to pay that much na 500,000. So, what will happen in our amortization schedule is that etong 2,407,900 na to, i-reduce siya by the principal collection. Tapos, madadagdagan siya with this amortization of the allowance, no? Of which we considered as interest income for this particular period. So, that's 2,407,900 minus 500,000 plus 2 million plus 240,790. So you'll have 2,148,690. So the same will be applied here. So if you have this amount na, you'll be multiplying this by 10%. And then after that, no, this is already given. So ito yung amount na babayaran ni client by 2022. So what will happen is this amount here, 2,148,690, 690. I-reduce natin siya by 1 million. So, minus 1 million plus 214,869. So, you will get 1,363,559. So, at the end of this year, 2023, so dapat ma-zero out na yung carrying amount natin kasi na fully paid na ni client. So, what you're going to do here is kunin na lang natin yung difference ng 1.5 million tsaka yung 1,363,559 kasi yun na yung i-consider natin as interest income para ma-close na yung ating loans receivable. So, yan, no? 1,363,559 minus 1.5 plus 136,441. So, for the journal entries, ganito yung entries natin. No? So, first entry natin para sa collection noong 2021. So, you just debit cash, credit, loans receivable. And then, for the amortization, we debit allowance for loan impairment at 270,790 and credit interest income of 240,790. So, the same lang din sa December 31, 2022. So, una yung nakolekta mong 1 million and then the second is your amortization sa loan impairment. So, you recognize it as interest income. And then, for the last year, so same lang din, nakakolekta tayo ng 1.5 million and then nag-amortize tayo ng loan impairment amounting to 126,441. So, as of this day, so na-close na yung ating loans receivable. So, this next problem is about Urban Bank. So, ito naman siya, nakakabayad siya ng interest kaso lang na-delay. So, merong mga years na hindi siya nakapagbayad agad. So, we have here Urban Bank granted a loan of 3 million to a borrower on January 1, 2020. So, the terms of the loan were payment in full on December 31, 2025 plus annual interest payment at 8% every December 31, 2020. The first payment was made on December 31, 2020. So, on December 31, 2020, due to financial difficulties, the borrower informed Urban Bank that it is probably would miss the interest payment for the next 2 years. So after that, the borrower expects to resume an annual interest payment, but the principal will be paid on December 31, 2026, or 1 year late with interest paid for additional year. So these are the schedule of payments from the borrower. So, magbabayad siya after 2 years pa, no? So, by the end of the 3rd year na. Tapos, yung yung principal payment, ma-delay din siya ng pagbayad. Okay? So, we are given here the effective or the present value factors or the present value of factors at the original effective rate of 8%. So, we have here the computations. So, for your December 31, 2023, ang ginamit natin na factor ay period 3. So, bakit period 3? Because looking at this timeline, no? So, dito natin nalaman na hindi makakabayad si customer or si borrower for the next 2 years. So, since our first payment will be in 2023, so sa 2023 na, so that will be 3 years after. So, 1, 2, and 3. So, that's why the factor that we use is the present value of 1 at 3 periods, 0.795. or 0.794. So, the same also for 2024 kasi this 240,000 here will be collected na after 4 years. So, dito na period na to. The same also with 2025. So, dito na siya makakolekta. So, that's already 5 years after. And then, lastly, yung sa period 6, yung sa principal na talaga na payment. So, you have, or plus interest. So, you have 0.7513 yung factor niya. So, pag i-multiply yung factor with the amount of the projected cash flows, so you will get these amounts here. So, you simply add them. So, this is the present value of our loans receivable. So, what you have to do is to compute for the impairment loss. So, for us to compute for the impairment loss, of course, we compare the carrying amount of the loan and the present value of the future cash flows. So, we have here, the carrying amount is 3 million since there's no accrued interest kasi nabayaran man niya noong 2018. So, nakabayad man siya noong 2018 tsaka 2019. Nakabayad siya noon. Nakabayad siya noong December 31, 2020. So, walang accrued interest. So, 3 million lang talaga yung loans receivable. Tapos, after that, compare natin yung impairment loss with accrued interest. So, again, this time, wala tayong accrued interest. So, yung allowance for impairment mo ay 428,400 talaga. So, this will be your entries. So, you debit loan impairment loss at 428,400 and a credit to allowance for loan impairment amounting to 428,400. So, presentation-wise, ganito yung pag-present natin sa December 31, 2020. So, your loans receivable is 3 million. Reduce that by 428,400. So, your carrying amount is 2,571,600. Okay, next is the subsequent na entries. So, this is an amortization also of your allowance. So, we have here for the 2 years na wala tayong interest kasi hindi nakapagbayad si client, dapat mag-compute tayo ng interest using this amortization. So, we have this amortization schedule here. So, you'll start with the carrying amount of 2,571,600. So, you simply multiply this by 8% because that's the effective rate na old na ginamit pang discount. So, 8%. So, that's 205,728. So, that is your amortization. So, next is this amount here, i-add natin doon sa ating carrying amount na previous. So, you'll have 2,777,328. Then, after that, of course, kinumpute na lang kung magkano yung kulang. So, that's 3 million minus 2,777,328. So, ang difference ng dalawa ay 222,672. So, this amount here is considered as our income in 2022. So, we have here the entries to record the amortization of your allowance. So, you debit allowance for loan impairment at 205,728 and credit interest income for the same amount. Pagka 2022, ito naman yung record natin. So, debit ka pa rin ng allowance for loan impairment and credit ka ng interest income. By 2023, nakakolekta ng interest. So, debit cash, credit interest income. As well as in 2024 and in 2025. So, sa 2026, nakolekta na niya ang principal amount plus the interest of 240,000. Okay, so that will be the end of the second problem for impairment. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next discussion video class. Bye!